just like coarse aggregate, we need to get the specific gravity and absorption of the fine aggregate or sand. So since sand is a finer particle, we do it in a little bit of a different way. But just like the coarse aggregate, I have our fine aggregate here. I have dried it for 24 hours in a 110-degree oven, and I have soaked it at room temperature water for 24 hours. Now, what we need to do is get the outside of this aggregate dry while maintaining the internal moisture. Now, this we do a little bit differently. We're allowed to use warm air, spoon, and drying to get this down. And we're going to determine that the outside is sufficiently dry using the cone method. So this can take some time, so I'm going to get started. So at first you can see that the sand is really sticky and we need to get a lot of water out of it. So there's going to be a lot of blowing of hot air and mixing. starts looking pretty dry and you start getting hit in the face with a lot of fines, that's when I think it's about time to start doing the cone test. So doing the cone test, you clear out a spot in your pan, put your hand, and then you fill the cone up. To overflowing. Then you take your weight and tamp and drop 25 times. If when you pull the cone up, the sand flows away, you're ready to finish the test. So we got some slump away. That means that we've gotten rid of the surface moisture and we can move on with doing the test. To finish the test, we need to use a volumetric flask. So what we're gonna do is fill the volumetric flask up to the volume line. This is 500 milliliters. Need to get down to make sure that the meniscus is to the line. Very nice. Now we zero our balance and we weigh the flask. Now, what we're going to do is remove water from the flask. Take a cone and add our sample of sand. Sometimes your funnel gets backed up and you need to do some negotiating. I want to make sure I get aggregates of all different sizes in, even though my funnel mouth is maybe a little too small. good amount of sand down into, so I have a nice sample to get out. Now, we'll use the bottle to wash down a lot of the side. So we can get the aggregate out of the neck. Now, you can see there's a lot of air bubbling up here, so what we need to do is give ourselves space, tilt on the side, and we roll the flask until we can get rid of all the air bubbles. And as we agitate it, you can see the air bubbles rising out to the top there. After a bunch of rolling, we've gotten the air out. So now all we're going to do is fill the flask up to the meniscus and weigh it again. All right. The last thing to do is remove this aggregate to a clean pan and then dry it in the oven for 24 hours. An important tip when doing this, be sure to use a pan that's much bigger than you think it is, because you want to get every piece of aggregate out of this flask, and it can take a lot of water. we have our sample, and now off to the ovens.